Welcome back, folks. You hearing me okay in the comments? You hearing me? You hearing me? Good afternoon, Ronald. Hello, Jason. Yes, you hear me? Thank you, MJ. Oh, I need to know because I can easily find ways to do stuff that we know. Welcome back to the show, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, those of you who came from Tony's, his little fun, coming to you here, as I say, always from the Queen City, the Radio City, Cincinnati. Beautiful town, WKRP. Let's get this party started. So I want to make sure there's enough people here. Hey, Mike Farley, Cliff, your thoughts on Tommy Cutlets starting this weekend? Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. How about that? I love how we started the various other kinds of talk right away. Actually, I'm trying to do a new thing here, and I want to start off with a rant from the very beginning and sort of get to something that I think is really important. So we're going to probably make that a new feature where I just kind of talk about comments, and then I go straight into a rant. And then, you know, I'll check you guys first, make sure that you can hear me, make sure people are here, and then kaboom, I'm going to go. So this is an important one. Let's frickin' do it. Okay, guys, precedent. You know what it means? We all know what it means, except for Republicans, fascists, morons. They do not know what it means. Donald Trump and the Republican Party over the last 10 years have assaulted every single thing you could call precedent, from the courts ignoring previous rulings to Trump using national security to pass tariffs and try to stop, immigrants and deport them. I got this turning it. I have to show it. In addition to that, we have watched this ridiculous display ever since 2020, January 6th. Yeah, that wasn't precedent. Usually we sort of, had a peaceful transfer of power. That was how we like to do it. Matt Gaetz, a guy being investigated for sexual assault, not what the AG is. That doesn't follow precedent. Guy with a white supremacist tattoo for defense. Yeah, neither does that. Tulsi Gabbard, who seems to have a strong affection for Vladimir Putin and Xi in China and Assad in Syria. No, you don't want her the head of intelligence. And Robert Kennedy Jr. is probably right now driving around somewhere with a bear head on that he chopped off. Okay, they've broken everything. So here, let's get to the point. Democrats cannot be worried about collegiality and this BS anymore of tradition, and we must do things the way we do them. We have 2 more months, and we need to take advantage of those 2 more months. And we do that by doing things that, well, in the past, when we had a Republican Party that at least had some reasonable members, we wouldn't have done. But with their assault on all of us, with the promises they're making about arresting people, about shutting things, various programs down unilaterally that Donald Trump does not have the power to do, sending Trumps, that was actually a good mistake. Sending Trumps into the cities, that would make the cities smell really bad. I digress. Sending troops into the cities, posse comitatus, against the Constitution, you can't do it. So why would we not take the Gaetz report and read it out loud on the House floor? That's right. There's a speech and debate clause. It protects you. You can't go to prison for what you say on the House floor. You can't get in any legal trouble for what you do what you say on the House floor because of speech and debate. We need to use that right now. Okay. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people out here don't know what they're doing next, who don't know what Donald Trump is going to do, who don't know what his thugs are going to do. Give us some hope. I love Joe Biden. I wrote ads for him in 2020. Didn't work for him this time, but that handshake with Donald Trump made me cringe. You can't tell us that people are this abnormal, and when we've seen they're that abnormal, when they asked their generals if they could shoot protesters, for example, you can't do that and then act like it's normal. So with Matt Gaetz, a man who there's an ethics report that has such damning information on his being a sexual predator, that needs to be shared. It absolutely needs to. And guess what? It's been given to a number of House members, and any House member can get up and read it out loud. Do it. And I'm not asking Democrats. We've supported you. We've donated. We've fought. I've done all of these shows. All these great commenters have shown up and been terrific. Okay, we put it all out there. We knocked on doors. We made calls. We did it, and we worried the whole time about losing our democracy. If you're really worried about losing your democracy, you're worried about losing your democracy, and you'll do what it takes. That means you will stand up on the floor and use that clause that allows you to read it, and you will read the Matt Gaetz report into the record, so all of America understands who Donald Trump is, which is scary. They don't right now. Who Matt Gaetz is, and that Donald Trump and his party chose to support Matt Gaetz for the highest law enforcement position in the country. A man who had two lawyers come forward yesterday, one of whom represented two women who Matt Gaetz paid for sex, and a third woman who Matt Gaetz apparently had a dalliance with, a tryst. I'm trying to not get the YouTube gods mad at me here. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying, when she was in high school. Sickening. And a lot more is going to come out soon. The man should be in prison. He shouldn't be anywhere near the Attorney General's office unless they're arresting him there. So let's finish off about the guy who, honestly, if he wants another job, he's resigned from Congress. There's always the job of being, if they want to create a live action Beavis and Butthead show, he can play Butthead. He does have a watermelon for a head, and he kind of laughs like him, and he's pretty stupid. But he cannot be Attorney General. And the way to do that is for a courageous House member, and we love you guys. We've supported you. Stand up, read the report, let people know what is in there, what sickening things this man did, and make sure everybody knows that Donald Trump still thought he was fit to be there, that a number of Republicans still have already come out and said they're going to vote for him. Use him against MAGA. Use him against Trump. Use them all against each other, and let's start effing winning. That is my speech, folks. Considering it was the first time, not the first time. No, not the first time that I've done that kind of a direct to camera. I do those with my regular 5-minute videos I create for all of you, but I'm going to do it more often at the beginning of these shows. I love this. Crockett to the rescue. I could absolutely, Regina, see Jasmine Crockett. I didn't want to call individuals out unless I need to, but I'm actually going to say more on a positive note. Jamie Raskin, Eric Swalwell, Dan Goldman, Stacey Plaskett. She's not even allowed to vote because she's from the Virgin Islands, and she has stood up and fought these guys. I believe if this were the Senate, I'd be much more scared. It's the House. We have a number of allies. You are protected. Read the damn report on the floor and put it in the public record. Yes, I thought my rant was done, but I decided to keep it going. Oh, there's the Ozarkian Polish guy. That would be
you can call me a Polak. So
to you, and you can call me a Hebe and all sorts of stuff. But I think other people out there may not like it as much.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you want to discuss any further what I was saying there, but I made sure
I didn't catch too much. Are you talking about the Matt Gaetz report? The Matt Gaetz report?
Well, here's the deal. I'll throw it out for you because in case, and let me thank you, Moms Russo. I love that. Moms Russo seems like a solid Sicilian name. My wife's family's part Sicilian. We love it. It's my understanding that Gaetz resigned this Congress, but won his seat for the next Congress so he can come back. There's been no election for the next Congress, so he hasn't won it for the next one yet, unless I missed something. He just resigned, so he will have to run if he wants to in a special election if he wanted to come back in. So he's not there. Now, what I was saying is, what I was getting at right there is a debate and speech clause on the House floor. It protects you. You have legal immunity for what you say on the floor because it's supposed to encourage open debate. And any Democrat who has gotten a hold of this speech, and I saw in Newsweek and other publications, it has been handed out to numerous Democrats, not to mention the ones in the Ethics Committee. Any single one of them can stand up.
So did you find that out that any, because I was unclear about this, if it was anyone who knew of the report, which the only one knew of the report would be people inside the, I mean, obviously we know. But they've
actually, I've already heard that the members of the Ethics Committee have handed it out to other members.
Oh, okay. So they know it exists.
So if you stand up, you under, again, the speech and debate clause have full legal immunity. And again, Could their thugs come and tackle you and arrest you? Well, yeah, and then we're not in a democracy anymore. Could they find a way to punish you some other way? Of course, but that's the whole point here. Is we need to stand up. We've got 2 months left.
You're saying make them do this stuff. In full transparency, I want to go to a comment here of Grumpy Cat said Tony just pummeled in the room. I was not pummeling my junk in between. I'm gonna do that later, just for full transparency.
You don't get to steal that phrase from me. My show. Here's where it is. Cliff's Edge, where junk gets pummeled.
That's great. That's great. Pummel your junk. I like that.
Well, listen. Here's the thing. This is important, though. I want to get this point across.
Yeah, sure.
Because David Waldman, who some folks may know, especially if you are folks that were longtime readers of Daily Kos, good friend of mine. He's an expert on Senate congressional type procedure. He worked in the House, Senate, some of those spots. I guess he still does the radio show for Daily Kos every morning. He's going to join at 2:30, and He will know much more of this than me. But outside of just the House and Senate, there's what the president can do. There are pardons. They're talking about court-martialing generals for the Afghanistan withdrawal right now. Remember, all the times that a number of presidents done this. Pardon people ahead of time. Pardon them all ahead of time right now, so nothing can happen to them.
Now
I would honestly pardon every Democratic member of Congress right now for the specific things that you expect he will go after them for.
Let me ask you though, because I'm not against a president using the power of the pardon. They all do it when they leave, and I think Joe Biden should heavily consider pardoning his son. But I will say that I am not of the belief or in the disillusion that Trump would abide by pardons. Like, I don't think they're going to abide by pardons.
Right, but that's the point. Make him openly defy the law.
So in that respect, do you think that's the missile launch thing? Do you think that's what Biden did with the long range missiles?
Oh, absolutely.
He's challenging Trump. Basically, Biden's setting the line, and he's going to make Trump move it. And because without the line there, Trump doesn't get to move it. He just gets to define where the line is. But with the line there.
Sorry, that's my new outro, I guess. Well, where junk gets pummeled. I don't know if that would work for everyone, but yeah, maybe.
I don't know. It's a pretty catchy phrase, I think.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is.
Maybe they should pummel the Matt Gaetz ethics report. Is what they should.
And all of you folks, I read some of your names. You'll get used to this. I'm going to start the show, and right away, make sure that enough folks are here. You can hear me do my 5-minute rant. And so I'm sorry if I missed one or two super chats or anything along the way. I even stopped in the middle and did a little bit of one a new member. Thank you. I will try to get used to the fact that to not do it during that 5 minutes. And then, from there, of course, we love super chats and super stickers and Superman and memberships.
Super duper. It's super duper.
Yeah.
Super duper.
But I would say to you, Tony, all around, this isn't just about pardons. And it isn't just about reading this letter on the floor. Mm-hmm. It's about, we have 2 months where we have a huge amount of power to frame the debate and point out who we are versus who they are, to set in place laws that they will have to break and ignore. And that's even something the mainstream media tends to report on, and protects people who may be vulnerable in ways, again, that they could not undo without Donald Trump doing a unilateral move that makes very clear who he is, and therefore helps us when we are trying to galvanize opposition to him. And again, some of these things will work. Trump can barely, he barely has 2 neurons firing at the same time. I know he has people that work for him that are evil, whatever, but they can't do everything. So we should look. I mean, the classic example is right now, and I saw that Brian Schatz, I never know how to pronounce his name, great guy, he's one of my favorite senators from Hawaii, announced, because at first it looked like Dick Durbin, who is literally one of my least favorite and weakest Democrats, was not going to get to putting all of the judges on the court, and I was going to literally blow my spadoinkle, okay, and start screaming. Every single executive position, and they can't rescind in the bureaucracy, every single member, who you can put on a court, you do that now. These are the ways you protect yourself from the virus that is incoming. You build up right now your immunity.
Well, and I think the other thing too, I read a report that the Senate is moving on, I think 9 or 7 of Biden's judicial nominations to the federal bench. So they're moving on that as well. And I'm getting a message here that some of those long range missiles actually hit down inside a region of Russia today, which is fantastic. Yeah. We should be cheering the fact that Ukraine is going to drop bombs on Putin and call his bluff, because he is bluffing. He is bluffing with the nuclear weapons. He's a bully. He's a playground bully, and this is what they do. So
I've seen people say this, Tony, and this is a propaganda technique that if you've been live long enough, they've been saying this since the 60s. 50s, whenever, maybe.
Right. We had national programs that would make them, that would instruct students to hide underneath their desk in case of a nuclear attack.
Enough borscht, we nuke you. I'm being silly, but the point is that they a number of times when we did things, this is another area again where I will be critical of the Biden administration, and I think they failed. I think they should have said before this election to Vladimir Putin, gotten together with whoever they needed to get together with, and said, we're going to be very clear. I see one video about people eating pets in Springfield that's traced to you. I see one bomb threat to someplace that's traced to you. If you get yourselves involved the slightest frickin' bit in our election, then we will arm Ukraine, Poland, everybody on your border to the frickin' teeth. And we will, whatever economic sanctions we already have, we will fucking quintuple them. Okay, we will do whatever is necessary to ensure that you hurt from doing it. Stay out of our elections. Cyber attacking our elections is a declaration of war, and expect that we will take it that way. And we will make sure to attack you back and harm you back in every way we possibly can. And I don't believe that message was delivered in the kind of way it should have.
Can I deliver it in one way before I leave? Because I got to get going here. If you fuck with us, we will pummel your junk.
I think you have to throw in, we are going to pummel your little Soviet junk.
That's it. That's what it is. That's what it is. Cliff, don't stop pummeling the fascist junk. Don't do it. Keep pummeling on them. Keep beating on them. And I hope everyone finds your guest very interesting. He sounds very interesting today. I'm sorry I have to go, but
dude. Well, dude, you have to go pummel some junk.
I do. Well, I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta go do that.
You've got a large Polish kielbasa.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, all the Polish people, if you've had any pierogies or piva at a punchka party, you know about pummeling the kielbasa. All right, everyone. I'm gonna go.
That could actually be your phrase. You can. You can open the show by this is, hey, it's Tony. I'm once again pummeling the kielbasa.
Pummeling my junk. All right, everyone. Cliff, keep pounding on him. We'll see you.
All right. Take it easy. Hey, I see David Waldman here early listening to us be very uncouth. And I think he'd probably like to join us in that. So I'm going to bring you in early, my friend. Let's add you to the stage. How's it going, dude?
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. Everybody.
Oh, are you?
Well, I mean,
we're getting by. Okay.
You have an hour. I mean, I am in terms of right now. I'm sitting upright. I've eaten some food, so my stomach is full.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I've got a pretty decent rate of blood pressure overall. Am I really doing? Am I doing okay with the fact that I have to think about my 2 teenagers growing up in this country over the next 4 years, or that I knew a few people that I never expected that I found out voted for this, or that, many other things I could say? No. So there's a whole lot I'm not doing okay with, but if I just come in here looking for a therapy session, we all give each other therapy here. But the point is that there's some optimism too. And it's in my nature, man. I can't help it. if there's a fight, I'm gonna with bullies, I'm gonna fight it. They're evil people, and I'm not letting them make us lie down. As I was gonna say to people, and I might as well just throw this out there now. I started saying some of it on Tony Michael's show, who was just on. I often go on Tony's show, and then he brings his crowd over here, which is very kind of him. And now some of them even come on their own because hopefully they like what we're doing. But you know, last night a Wyoming court overturned the abortion ban in Wyoming. Awesome. We picked up a seat. We didn't. I guess I don't know if we didn't expect or whatever. And we picked up the Alaska House. And as I've said to people, watch that state. Ton of independents, not a lot of big cities, but we're finding ways to win people there. Maybe we should look at that messaging and see what we're doing that's been successful there in helping us gain. Addition, North Carolina Supreme Court seat looked like we were done. Now, I don't think it's fully done, but we are winning. And I think by enough that people are thinking we are going to win. And the final one I threw in there, and I should include most of the others, is that most of these seats, there was a point where we were down 218 to 209 or whatever it was in the House. Most of these close races in California, as one would expect, as cities came in, we passed, we started taking them, we started gaining, and particularly the one with Derek Tran over Michelle Steele by 36 votes. Every vote counts, folks. Okay. So David Waldman, I need to say to you, so longtime Daily Coast writer. I'm not sure if you're writing there anymore, but you were for a long time. Hosts their morning show, radio show, and is an expert on Senate and House and these kinds of procedures and things where I am what you would call somewhat challenged because I am more of a campaign sort. And just a great guy. I've known David for years. So I thought he could come on here because my theme was, and I have a feeling you're going to agree with me, Mr. Nuclear Option. David coined that phrase. I'd like you all to know. He should be. I certainly familiarized people with it. He should. He should be. That should be next to him in the dictionary. But every way, you know, I was talking about how we could use executive power. I talked to you, and I gave my little spiel at the beginning, my little rant about how somebody in the House, after all we've done, after all they've said about the importance of democracy, after the money we've given, the time we've given, somebody there needs to stand up. Again, if they're not protected by the speech and debate clause, we're no longer in a democracy anyhow, and they're in for a lot of trouble no matter what. While we are here, and right now we still control the federal branch. Now is the time. Everybody needs to set expectations, to build up our immunity to what's coming, to create the narrative about who they are. And there's nothing better than, hey, this is who Donald Trump thought to nominate, and this is who a bunch of Republicans, MAGA types, are already supporting. This guy. Let's read to you the report about him. That's one of many things I would hope we could do. Besides, you can tell us if we're moving quickly enough on judges, because I thought Durbin, who disappoints me nonstop and I wish would go away. In any case, you go. What can we do?
Well, my big thing now, I mean, look, there's a lot of things that are going to be inevitable. You're not going to be able to stop. We won't have a majority in the House. We won't have a majority in the Senate. But of course, it's razor thin. And each one of these races that turns over brings it closer. One thing to remember about the way the House, and to a lesser extent, the Senate functions just by virtue of the numbers, is in the House, there are half a dozen to a dozen absences every day for various reasons. Someone's sick, someone's going to a wedding, 35 Republicans have COVID-19, whatever it is, so there's always absences.
100 of them went to visit Donald Trump at his, while he's sitting in court and being sentenced.
There's a UFC fight. I don't know, whatever could be going on. So they're gone.
Alien versus Predator is on. I mean,
Yeah, it could be anything. It happens with Democrats too. But when you're working with a razor thin majority in the House and every vote counts, if there are 6 of you gone for some reason, there are going to be days where there's no functional majority on the House floor, and they'll have to muster them if they need them. So although we won't be able to prevent everything bad from happening, you can't stop every bad thing. You can delay almost everything, and even by just a little bit. Yeah.
Not to interrupt, but I think this will add to it, which is, if I am correct right now, the way it's looking is going to end up they're going to lose it. We're going to gain a House seat. It's going to end up instead of 221 to 214. It looks like 220 to 215. Well, they've also chosen 3 people now. I mean, Gates has
Yeah.
already resigned, so who the hell cares whether he makes it or not? He's gone.
Right.
And what's her name? Even though she loves white replacement theory, Stefanik is going to be approved. And there was one other, I can't think of who it is.
Waltz from Florida.
That's right. So they're functionally going to have. I feel like there might have been a fourth too, 1 or 2 vote majority when we get there.
I had seen it.
Yeah.
People were pleading with Trump, trying to get the message through to Susie Wiles, like stop nominating,
stop picking House members.
Cut it
and
out.
that's the beauty of it, is that, remember, they couldn't manage it when they had the bigger majority.
Right. You only have to think back to the fight over the speakership right at the beginning when we weren't doing anything about it. They just were sitting there unable to choose a Speaker of the House. And almost every piece of legislation that is passed, both under McCarthy and under Johnson, all passed under suspension of the rules because they couldn't do it by themselves. They couldn't muster 219 or a majority of whatever they had that day because there's just people out. But delay is a tactic that should be used, even if you're delaying something, an appointment that's going to, put someone in office for years, right? But you're delaying it for just a day. A lot of times people throw up their hands. What's the difference a day? I'm looking at it this way. I mean, we're in dire straits, but I'm sure your audience would appreciate thinking of it this way. Anything can be delayed, even if it can only be delayed for a day. Every day's delay is another opportunity for Donald Trump to drop dead. You should always remember that, right? Okay. And you're always hoping for that anyway. What does it mean? What difference does it make if J.D. Vance is going to be the vice president, et cetera? Well, not everything that's as crazy as Donald Trump does is something that J.D. Vance is going to do. He'll be interested in advancing Project 2025 agenda. But one thing I think we've learned over the years is Donald Trump world is 100% top to bottom a cult of personality. We have seen dozens of aspiring Republican politicians do everything they can to imitate the way he works, do the things he does.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. None of them they've all failed. Some of them don't even make it into office.
There's a reason Trump University worked. There's a reason whatever.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And I never will. But he has this unique con man charisma. And the combination of this unique con man charisma for the stupid. And on top of that, he's a sociopath with literally zero empathy. So when you combine those two things, but he's a showman. Can anybody imagine Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, J.D. Vance? I mean, these are people that have the personality of like a wet blanket run through feces.
Vance couldn't order a donut without getting
exactly. They barely can communicate with other human beings. Look at Elon Musk. I mean, he can actually barely speak to another human in a conversation.
This is all
None
true.
of these people are a threat in the way Trump is that way, that for some reason, look at all these voters that came out for Trump and then didn't vote for the rest of the ticket, which is why Gallego won, Rosen won, all these folks, unless Trump won by at least 12 to 15 points, our Democrats were actually, or something like that, were able to overcome and still win.
Yeah, very often.
So
this is very dependent on Trump, surviving. And he's 157,000 years old. Every day there's no denying every day is closer to death. For all of us, but for
you're
him
missing
in
though
particular.
that his very good diet, his workout, exercise plan, his lack of rage in his daily life, and how he gets really good sleep. So you have to remember all of that.
Right. So he's destined for immortality. But could happen anytime. Could never happen while he's in office. You never know. But every day's delay it's at least an opportunity for something else to go wrong, for one of these nominees to rape someone else, for instance, or at least for it to be found out afterwards. I don't think there's ever been a situation where a Donald Trump nominee has looked better over time, right? so
none that I'm aware of, no.
So, I think that's pretty solid.
Only the ones who turned around and later ended up saying,
I guess that's
he's a
true.
Fascist. They looked a little better over time, but mostly no.
I guess that's true. Yeah. So no one has remained in service and looked better over time. So I think time is your friend there. And of course, time is an extremely valuable commodity on that floor of the House, the Senate in particular. And every hours delay is a delay for, you delay something for an hour in the Senate, they'll say, let's try it again tomorrow. And you got a day's delay there. A day's delay can easily be turned into a week. They go on recess. But everything that can be slowed down should be slowed down. And I mean, in the first Trump administration, I had hoped that they would do this more with Trump's nominees and just, look, it's an inevitability. They only need a majority vote, but let's make them invoke cloture on everything. You can turn every nomination into a week-long affair. This time around, he may find ways of bypassing that. And, not too much you can do about that, but you got to exact the price, stretch it out as long as you can. I mean, really, honestly, this time around, if anybody's ever spent any time, and I'm sorry if you have spent time watching C-SPAN and you see what happens on the House floor or on the Senate floor, every once in a while you notice that things are interrupted, especially at the beginning of a,
I'll say
of a
quickly,
new administration.
thank you, Regina. Very kind. Okay, go ahead.
That whenever the president communicates something like a nomination to the Senate and they announce it, the doorkeeper announces it, the presiding officer says, we've got a message from the president in writing, et cetera. This is usually a given because ordinarily you don't have forgers as president, right? But
I mean, we tended in the past to lean towards not having criminals, traitors, and rapists as presidents.
That's
but
one of the things we like to do. And now we've evolved and we allow these things. We're very inclusive.
And then when we get them for president, we also nominate them for pretty much every other post. As I said, really the big mark against Tulsi Gabbard in that world is that I don't think she's assaulted anybody. She's really got to up her game there. She's only
got 2 months
probably
to do
committed treason, and I don't know that that's enough to stop her.
Right. That won't be it. But these nominations will arrive as written communications from the president, and they show up and they're announced on the House floor and routinely, not the House floor, but the Senate floor, and they're routinely just, okay, duly noted, put it in the hopper. We'll get to that nomination later. You really should be stopping and saying, reserving the right to object here. I don't know that we've received a writing and communication from the president of the United States. What are you talking about? It's right here. It's got the seal and everything. Wait, that guy forged electoral college votes. I don't know what that thing is.
Hey, this is
you got to show me the paper.
They should do that kind of stuff all the time. So that's the delaying, obviously, once he gets in. Yeah. But I'm saying even for the next 2 months, we have the Senate and we have the presidency. So I'm thinking, I remember some of my civics classes.
Yes.
I'm thinking judges, any good treaties to sign? I don't know. Are there? Because if there are, now would be a good time.
Yeah.
And on top of both of those things, are there any, you'll know this better than, you'll know this. I don't. Are there any executive positions, in the bureaucracy where we could put people that he couldn't just undo again, unless we go full fascism, so we can get some normal people embedded in some of the parts of the bureaucracy right now? Is there anything that we can do? I mean,
offhand, I don't know what those positions are offhand, but there's certainly plenty. There's a million seats on commissions, presidential commissions. They're not particularly influential, but you can fill them.
Again, to show our strength, to show we're not giving up, to create a narrative, we're fighting this every step of the way. Every one of those damn things should be done.
Yeah, you should do it. I mean, and again, it is something that he could go full fascist and undo, but you got to make him do it and do it in open daylight. But every position that you fill on commissions of various kinds is something that isn't available for a Mar-a-Lago member to just be given away as a premium. Right. So, and that's how he tends to fill those things. He was going to run the VA with Mar-a-Lago members last time. So,
So that's all I'm saying is I really feel like there's opportunities here. Again, look, the whole point is that if he goes full fascist and if we are not protected by generals who decide or others in key positions in the administration, Homeland Security, DOJ, wherever it might be, well, then he goes full fascist and then we could just lie down. But as far as I'm concerned, if we can't sit here and think, well, he may go full fascist, because that's going to be the same thing no matter what we do. We might as well do all of the stuff, try to change minds, try to show how terrible they are, Gates' letter and other stuff, try to get people in key positions, try to get as many judges out there, and then, you know, we're at least in a better position, whether he goes full fascist, no matter what he does, to fight him. That would be the way I would see it. And again, I mentioned this before, and you can say if this is sane or not. I'm interested to see what you think. But who's saying? Somebody was saying this earlier that it may have been I'm going on too many shows these days, David. So with Bob Seska earlier,
Okay,
good dude, and he said that Biden had pardoned some folks that Trump had said he was going to go after, like pre-pardoned them. And I couldn't he do that with these generals? They're saying that they're going to court-martial. Couldn't he do it with at least not a general blanket pardon, but specific to some things? Couldn't he do it with certain members of Congress if he says, I'm going to go after them for this? Give them pardons for that ahead of time. Like the January 6th committee, right? Couldn't he, with the January 6th committee, he said he's going to, military tribunals or whatever crap. Couldn't you, for all those Democrats plus Adam Kinzinger, and then somebody else I never thought I'd hear myself in my life saying this, but Liz Cheney. Can we?
Yeah. Sure.
It's
now
really
it's
hard
bipartisan.
for me to say, but
Yeah.
she did step up on that. I'm torn on that one. Okay, I'm torn.
Yes.
But yes, shouldn't we give them all pardons because of what he said he's going to do? And can't Biden do that?
Yeah. He certainly can. I mean, again, ordinarily we're kind of stuck in the old ways of thinking, like, well, what are you pardoning? No crime has been committed. Well, that's just like your opinion. And the problem is that the new president thinks it's a crime, and he may be totally wrong. And it may be that after 2-3 years of litigation, it turns out, yeah, he lost. But the idea here is avoid that. That shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, I guess
we've seen some of his people. Look,
that.
From people in his administration, there are always people, and there always will be people that start off as Trump loyalists who end up hating him. Because he's an evil person who will throw anybody under the bus at the first moment. So he's going to do that and create some people internally who may start leaking things, God knows what. Second, again, the thing that has been impressive about this country to a large degree is our professional military. That they have taken seriously their oath to the Constitution, and a number of these guys helped prevent what could have been worse last time. He's done his best to purge them. He's setting up some silly committee to try to purge more. But you know what? There are probably plenty of them that have never spoken out on their politics or anything like that. And some that they might even think, which we even thought, I figured John Kelly would join him and be a full supporter. It turns out maybe not as much as I thought. There are other generals who will be there. There's colonels, there's majors, there's admirals, there's people in different parts of the bureaucracy, that they don't know about.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to know of every person. I don't care how much of a little vampire Stephen Miller is looking through everything. There are going to be, and these are the types of folks. This is hero time. This is when these folks step up and say, and I have to believe that that some of them are there. Remember, a whole bunch of judges that Trump appointed.
Yes.
They weren't all. In fact, most of them were not Eileen Cannons. Most of them rejected his ridiculousness when it got in front of them and said no. They took their oath.
There were a lot of examples of that. That's true.
Right. So again, these are the things that we have to keep in mind. But if we are not doing our best to fight, if we're not willing to do it, then maybe we don't give them the courage to do it. Courage is courageous. Courage is courageous. Let me try that again.
That's true.
That's going to be my saying from the beginning. I keep telling people I want to have an end of the show saying courage is courageous. Here's what I meant to say. Courage is infectious. It really is.
Contagious.
A leader who steps up when FDR says you have nothing to fear but fear itself. It makes you tingle a bit, and people say, "That's right. We're not going to let these sons of bitches stop us." Whatever the feeling on certain other aspects of his personality and beliefs are now, I'll throw that ahead of time. When Winston Churchill we're going to fight them on the beaches and fight them in the sea, that inspired people to defend London and fight the Battle of London. Again, leaders who are willing to step up and speak out and in strong, courageous voices, it is infectious. And it gets other people who maybe never would have thought of doing it to have the courage to do it. So that's where I think we are incredibly important, because we already know if it goes to hell, he's coming for us. So I mean, we got nothing to lose, David.
Yeah. I'll add that it's also extraordinarily important that we as civilians do step up and do this. I mean, as much as we think we may see that courage reflected in the military, one thing you don't really want on the road to recovery from fascism is to make the military brass think that they are the only ones that can save you.
No, I mean,
we want to encourage them to
history.
stand up, but we want to encourage them to stand up with us hand in hand to restore order. Whereas, it's a very dangerous thing. And I did see somebody.
And you're right, and it's been bad in history. I'll also point out that the city I am sitting in right now, Cincinnati, is named after a Roman general who, of course, they based the original Gladiator movie on. Where we've got another one coming out now. So it's And what George Washington based his decision on to reject the crown. What'd you say?
Are they sponsoring you as a co-promotion? Excellent.
I swear they're not, but I should talk to them about it. All the references I've made to posse comitatus and saying that we cannot allow the military to come into the cities because there literally is a phrase called crossing the Rubicon that was based on Caesar bringing the troops into the city, and they were never a democracy again. So yeah, I do a lot of Roman references here. I studied Roman history, and I find a lot of it's so apropos to other democracies and learning the lessons of not falling into what they eventually did. And so I'm just making the point that no, we don't want generals thinking they're all powerful, but hopefully, General Milley did the right thing, was more of a Cincinnatus type figure who said, no, you're not going to do this, who called China on his own to make sure that, which Trump hates him for and probably wants to court-martial him for, and because China was starting to potentially gear up their nuclear arsenal because they saw what was going on here and thought that we could end up having people take over our nuclear arsenal that could be a threat to them. He did some things outside of the chain of command he felt were necessary to protect democracy. And again, I don't want these guys having the feeling that that's forever, but hopefully a few of them are willing to do it in the short term, as you said, along with the bureaucracy, along with judges, along with police, along with firefighters, I don't care who, along with any of us, little acts of disobedience day in and day out, matter. Yeah. All of it matters. Again, it is infectious. If you think you're alone, that's what dictators try to do, is they try to make you feel isolated, alone, and crazy so you don't know what's up and what's down so that you give up. And communities and leaders and others are so important. That's everything history tells me, even though I'll say, look, the historian Joanne Freeman, who some people are familiar with, she was writing on one of the platforms. It must be Blue Sky because I am 98% off getting my data from that crappy X, and then probably will erase most of my tweets so he can't grok them for his stupid thing. And probably I will keep my handle just because I don't want someone stealing it and doing a fake whatever. But I will put the lockdown on my account, erase all of my tweets, and go bye-bye. But it took me a little while to get the data. In any case, there was a reason I brought that up, and now I've lost it.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, we're getting to be that age, man. I met you, we were in our 30s. We're no longer in our 30s. But I mean, again, even with someone like Musk, when you talk about this will sort of is a reminder stuff. When you talk about waiting things out, I talked about now twice with Bob earlier and then with Tony, because we're all thinking the same thing. There is Musk and Trump are almost the same person. Soulless, empty, in full need of adulation and love, failures again and again in business. They get bailed out by government, or they get bailed out by, this guy just alienated his entire Tesla base. And I'm sure he'll still keep getting government. Well, he'll make a lot of money from government with Trump coming in.
Sure.
But in the end, they're the same guy. They're already fighting, apparently. Trump's already making fun of him in front of the other people because he doesn't like the competition for the spotlight.
Yeah.
That's going to blow up eventually.
And that's part of the delaying tactic too, is another thing you buy with each day's delay is another day for one of them to get pissed off, fed up, stab somebody else in the back, whether it's Trump. It'll probably never be Trump, but Musk will shiv Miller if he can, or
he's already trying to shiv Epstein, they're fighting apparently bars. And I point out to people in numerous other shows, because I've been saying this since Trump was elected, my guess was that one of the biggest breaks, one of the most sort of fault lines that we are going to be able to exploit is people thought, oh, McConnell's done whatever. McConnell got so many of those guys in the Senate, guys and gals, to be clear, elected, which is one of the reasons why he was able to get Susan Collins to put on her shocked face and then do whatever he wanted. You can get her to vote for whoever he wanted and things like that. He raised so much dirty money to get all these folks elected. And God help us, I just talked about generals saving us. Now I'm talking about McConnell. So we're in dangerous territory. But it's not like McConnell saving us as much as it is the fact that they owe allegiance to him. And it was just proven, because if anybody had a question, the MAGA choice was Rick Scott. The McConnell choice was John Thune. John Thune won. So McConnell still has an independent, and McConnell just said, we're not doing recess appointments, for example. He's standing up to Trump on that. Again, every way those two guys can fight with each other, bring it on. And time will lead that relationship, and especially there's no doubt when Thune tries to make the Republican Party look sane by not doing some of Trump's craziest things, they're going to go to war with each other. So that's just a matter of time.
I mean, he did the same thing with McConnell, and that's why McConnell's not there as the leader now, partially. He just got fed up with everything is constant service to Trump. But yeah, that was another example of how many people has, as we were saying, people try to imitate Trump or become a MAGA politician by imitating his style or cruelty or what have you, and they get endorsed and they either don't make it past the primary, they lose the general election, they lose a leadership election inside Congress. This stuff happens all the time. A few of his people get through, but even those who hold office, Ron DeSantis, complete disaster in his presidential bid. I literally thought he could out Trump right to his face, and it was a completely fell
Didn't go
flat.
well for him. He would walk in and say, I mean, it was like almost like there was a parade to the point of where you're like, can I find any more negative EQ? Can it go any further in a negative? I would call it a charisma event horizon. Could it go any more in that direction? It's like, first it was DeSantis, then we got to meet JD Vance. You've got Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, you've got Elon Musk. These are all people everybody hates, even the people who vote for them. I'm still of the belief, again, that Trump at the top of the ticket is the reason why Ted Cruz was able to get reelected. I really do believe that Allred was talented enough, raised enough money, did all that, and Cruz is hated enough that we might have been able to pull off Texas. But because Trump won it by double digits, it's the same thing that killed us here in Ohio and in Montana with our incumbents. Yeah. Just couldn't, in any case, point being, everybody hates Ted Cruz. And so,
always the point.
And everybody hates Rick Scott. Rick Scott is already, he fights with DeSantis. He's fighting with McConnell. Like, there's just so many. It's like, here, let me put it simply for folks. If you've heard this before, I'm sorry, but I tried to explain this to my kids. They're both teenagers now, but let's say about 6-8 years ago, Star Wars movies are coming out, and they were like, Daddy, why are the Siths fighting each other? They're the bad guys. And I had to explain to them. I had to say, well, you see, Siths are evil. Siths by nature betray everything and everyone, only want for themselves. They're greedy. They enjoy causing suffering for others. They're terror, all of that stuff. And I'm like, and that doesn't matter if you're another Sith or you're a Jedi or anybody else. They'll betray and destroy people that are theoretically on their side the way they will anybody else, because that's part of being a narcissist, a sociopath, having antisocial personality disorder, or any other thing you can find in your local DSM that half the Republican caucus has. So they're going to all fight with each other. It's quite obvious. And Roberts has already apparently had it out on the court with Alito at times. And somehow, though, it still hasn't blown them up and they've made it work. I'm just saying, like, by the fact that they're evil, that they have no alliance but to either some crazy ideology or to themselves getting rich, whatever, it leads to these tensions. And there are going to be a lot of them, would be my thought.
Yep. Yeah. And everybody lining up. They all know, as we do, that Trump drops dead one day. If it happens while they're on the job, they scramble to take over or climb up the ladder, or what can I do to make sure it's not the other guy at a minimum? And it causes all kinds of problems. And that'll be going on behind the scenes, leaking to the papers. Trump leaks to the papers all the time. Trump leaks everywhere, wherever he goes. So, yeah, this will be. They'll do a lot of the work for us. We just can't fail to capitalize. If they hand you
Right.
a winning hand, let's do it. Let's play it. And right. So as you mentioned, not only things that we can do once he's in office. I know we talked beforehand a little bit about the possibility of this Matt Gaetz ethics committee report finding its way into the hands of a Democrat in the House and invoking the speech and debate clause protections like they did with the Pentagon Papers and reading these things aloud and putting it in the record, put it in the congressional record. It goes out on C-SPAN. Republicans will go crazy. They'll talk about what a break this is with the norms.
I know. I love hearing that when they said, what a break with precedent. I'm like, yeah, precedent, like January 6th.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not smearing anything on the walls. I'm just reading your report.
Exactly.
So
I'm using the toilet when I have to go to the bathroom. You broke precedent by using the walls in Congress.
This is really just against all the norms. But they'll strike back anyway, and they'll just find other ways that they might actually respect the limitation of putting someone in legal jeopardy for doing this, or they might not. But by the same token, they'll be dealing with death threats.
Again, we had Democrats like with the filibuster for a while. Like, well, what'll happen? They might get rid of it. And I'm like, listen, guys, the minute they decide it is in their interest that they need to get rid of it, they will get rid of it. The reason they don't have to, because the only things they care about are judges, which they got rid of it for, because again, they did. The Supreme Court, they nuked it on that right away, and they don't need it for taxes to give big tax cuts to rich people because of reconciliation. So in the end, it's much more useful for them to have it. But at the moment, if they need something desperately, they decided to get rid of it. They're going to get rid of it. So that's why when Democrats are like, well, we shouldn't do this because they might do that.
Oh, boy.
Just assume they're going to do that. They're going to, I mean, unless you're a House member who decides you're not going to speak for 4 years, then you should accept he's going to come. If he's going to be a fascist and do something to you and ignore, the speech and debate clause, he's going to do it for something else. Yes. So there's just no reason to not do everything that we need to do. Yeah. And as you said, he could roll over and croak the next day, and then maybe we'll see how old people are in here. And if David gets this reference, maybe we can then reanimate the body of Alexander Haig to come in and claim that he's the one constitutionally in control.
Sure. Yeah.
You get that reference?
Hey, he was a general, so.
Do you get that reference?
I do. Yeah. As of now, I'm in control here at the White House or something like that.
Yes, when Reagan was shot, Alexander Haig, who was the Secretary of State, I believe at the time,
so Marco Rubio
claimed that he was in control. And that's not the way the order goes.
No, as it happens, there's a whole line of succession. But he was very direct and to the point. This is what he wants, and he's going to go for it regardless.
Well, that might be an example of having courage and standing up. We don't want to do it like that.
No,
but in following the law, we should have that courage because you stand up with confidence and you say it and you believe it, and others around you do. Guess what? You will influence people.
Yeah.
You will give others courage. You will let people know they're not alone.
We hope for. Yeah. Just to harken back to the perennial problem sometimes with Democrats sort of trying out something new, something untested or departing from the norms, even when the norms have already been departed from, and it's a question of doing the same thing back and, giving it back from where it came from. That's always driven me crazy is there's always this hemming and hawing about, well, if we do that, they'll do it back to us. And I keep saying, you understand that there's a flip side to that, right? Like if we do that, they'll do it back to us. See, what's happening here is you're scared of their retaliation. If you never retaliate, why will this mutually assured destruction thing doesn't work if it only goes in one direction? It's supposed to be mutual.
Yes.
If you don't strike back, then they never come to believe that there will be negative consequences to things they do. If we do this, they'll do it back to us. And imagine that in Republican conference meeting. If we do this to the Democrats, they'll do this back to us. No, they won't. or they, of course, in their world, they actually compensate by saying, well, they already did. They're tyrants. Remember that time they made us all eat broccoli? No.
Right. I mean, they find that's my point is that,
Yeah.
Again,
they'll do something.
maybe we need to maybe I need to talk to more psychiatrists, have them come in, whatever. But people who have disordered personalities, if any of you have some of those people in your life, and sadly I do have one, are people that are going to find things to be angry at you about and to turn into controversies, whether they really are or not. That's what they became with sure the elevation of Trump, but it even preceded that. It was the Tea Party and the elevation of Sarah Palin. And I've argued that 1.0 was Newt Gingrich when they replaced Bob Michael, this mild-mannered Illinois Republican who actually wanted to work with Democrats, was moderate, whatever, with a bomb-throwing, just gluttonous, cheat on every wife and dump them when they have cancer in the hospital, Newt Gingrich. Well, that was a signal to who they were becoming and who should run for office, and led to all of this, right? And so it became their party, through these stages, I've said, has became like flypaper for disordered people, which is why I liked when Waltz and Kamala Harris started calling them weird and pointing out, because they are.
That was great.
And I mean, we lost due to some things beyond our control, but that was actually a message it was great that I think they should have continued with even more. People who want to get elected to Congress taking pictures with other people's families because they don't have one, that's freaking weird. Okay, folks?
Yes.
People saying that they believe that that the devil can give people sexually transmitted diseases, like they've chosen leader of the Michigan Republican Party for a while until they oust her. Yeah, that's weird. Donald Trump dancing to Ave Maria 14 different versions on stage.
Dancing to Ave Maria once is weird. It's not
right. But he had to do the whole thing. And if you're if you're gravel pit McLean there, who is behind him from South Dakota, who likes taking her puppies to the gravel pit, and you start swaying along with him to look, you're weird. And I could bring up 50,000 other examples of how weird these people are, because they are. And that's because, again, they're not well adjusted. There are exceptions to this rule. I'm not saying there aren't, but overall, especially the ones in leadership, are not well adjusted socially, have very low EQs, often have disorders that, again, will show up in your psychology books. And so you have to assume that they're going to find a reason to be angry at you, to hate you. I mean, before Marjorie Taylor Greene was elected to office, she was spending her time following around David Hogue, screaming at him that nothing really happened at Parkland and doing things, and that she was an online lunatic. That's what she was. So the point is
videos are outrageous.
Right. She was always going to be that, and she always will be, which is why she's also gotten into fights with Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, the people that should be her allies. She's in fights with Laura Loomer all the time because they're nuts.
True.
So
same cast of characters will be dealing with a Trump death who gets on Julian's plane.
Right. Even while he's around, they are going to go to war with each other. If he's gone, it will be worse. Let them fight. Encourage it. If you can find ways to kind of, if you've got a Twitter account where you don't have your name attached to it and whatever, you feel and you want to kind of share something that you think Marjorie Taylor Greene said about Lauren Boebert, maybe you should do that.
Now's the time. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was thinking about the issue now coming to a head on Capitol Hill. We now have our first openly trans member of Congress incoming, and and Nancy Mace picking up and saying, all right, well, I'm going to sponsor, a House rule that will ban use of the bathroom. It's a bathroom bill for Congress. And
just
I was thinking
that nasty, horrible person.
Yeah. Right. And I thought, for a moment, I thought, well, I'm worried that they're going to pull some kind of a stunt, that Mace and Green and Boebert would do something like get together with cameras at the bathroom and link arms and try to physically block her access to the bathroom, even if it wasn't the one that she was trying to use. They would just stand there and get the pictures. But, if we're actually trying to get past them I'm just thinking about the three of them. Like one of them, whoever that comes closest is going to take a dive and say, "That's an assault. That's an assault right there. That's exactly what I was talking about." It's 10 seconds into the new Congress. I've been assaulted in the bathroom. Well, you fell down outside the bathroom, but
right.
But somebody pointed out to me, I don't know if you could get those three together to link arms anymore.
No,
That's
they couldn't.
true. That's a good
Again,
point.
there's division even within that whole group.
Yeah.
Because again, they're Siths. I'm going to keep reminding everybody of that. They're all only care about their own interests, their own obsessions, their own mental disorders, their own, greed for money, lust for whoever. That's all they care about. And they're taking out all of the things they hate about themselves on the rest of us. They need to project everything they loathe about themselves on everybody else. And so that also includes each other. So we should be encouraging that. Now,
every day that something doesn't happen. Yeah. I was going to say, and every day that you block something and every day that something doesn't happen is a news vacuum that people like those three idiots will fill with fighting.
Yep. So what I want to say is, can you summarize, because I'll probably have to go in about 5 minutes. If you've got 5 more, what I'll tell you folks is tomorrow I'm not going to have a guest, so we're going to do a standard question and answer live feed. So even though I'm not getting you to your question, I'm not getting your stuff today, save your questions and everything, please, and come back tomorrow. And we'll do that, an hour of that, maybe more, of you just asking questions, sharing comments. I'll do my little rant, but I'll answer as much as I can. But David is too smart a person not to have on for a long period of time. So give us your breakdown. What do you think? What should we do, David? Help us.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. There's so much. Certainly, delay of anything that can be done, and never taking Trump's word for it. And I guess, this is a hard thing to navigate, right? Because every minute is a new outrage from Trump, and that's part of the plan. And I'm sure you've talked about it a million times, Steve Bannon flooding the zone, and they're going to do that on purpose. And they've given everyone carte blanche to say stupid things, threaten stupid things. We're going to have this, and we'll end up fighting. One guy said they were going to deport 20 million. The other guy said 22 million. I'm not sure which one it is. Right. So, it's very difficult. You can't let any of this stuff slide per se, but there's also, you got to keep a check on yourself. Don't get too wrapped up in it. You got a lot of allies. Somebody's going to cover the outrage. You don't have to touch each one necessarily. You do, because you got to tell people which ones are out there for them to choose from. But, you're going to have to find a way to concentrate on the fact that, yes, there are things you can do, but not if you are distracted by everything that comes out and every threat that is made. And then the balancing act between, well, he means what he says and he's got the power to do it this time, versus if he sees a squirrel, the deportations are off for the day. That can happen.
Right. And we have to all keep that in mind.
So, there's ways to distract him. There's ways for him to lose track of things. He's terrible with paperwork, which is part of the reason I was saying, check everything that comes in. You say you nominated Matt Gaetz. Where? Show me the paper. Here it is. That looks like his signature, but I don't know that he signed that thing. There's a room, by the way, in the Capitol, the president's room, where in days of old, the president would come to sign legislation. You should be saying, you won't be able to do it because you're in the minority, but if you want me to believe that Donald Trump signed this nomination, bring him here. Let him sign it in front of me. Now they'll say, no, that's crazy. Well, I move that we do that. Well, I move that we table your motion. All right, well, that's a 15-minute vote. And we'll do it again and again and again. Because look, there's a lot of nominations. There's thousands of jobs. Now that he thinks he's going to do this all by Schedule F, apparently he's supposed to be nominating like 50,000 people. All right, well, 15 minutes times 50,000. What's it going to take?
That's a lot of minutes.
Yeah, not all of them have to come.
750,000 minutes in my mind.
Yeah, there's really there's really no reason to accept anything that he's sent. And anybody who said, I know that sounds stupid and silly, but I gotta go back to, he forged electoral college votes. What do you make of that? Other than everything could be fake. And again, Trump University, he literally built people out of money and didn't.
we can go through a lot of that stuff.
And
But
somewhere along
David-
the line, Boris Epstein's going to nominate somebody instead and not tell Trump and auto pen the thing and send it. Catch that one.
Seriously, these things will happen. And that, again, disordered people
Yeah.
are going to do disordered things. So tell people where they can find you, good sir.
Well, okay. These days we are long since spun off, but with the radio show from Daily Coast. But a lot
Are
of
you
our
really?
audience
I'm
comes.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It won't bother me. Might bother them. I don't know. But yeah, we do under my old silly handle where you can still find me in social media, KagroX, and I do a Kagro in the morning, and we're on every weekday, 2 hours, 9 to 11 Eastern. We stream on a little thing we call Netroots Radio, run by good folks that have been a part of our gang since forever. And it goes up in podcast form. It's on YouTube. It's on Patreon. And
You can
that's
find
the
this
place
guy
we love.
everywhere.
Yeah. So we try to make the thing available and easy to find. And, if you know the handle KagroX or you see the name David Waldman, you can find me
It
there.
used to be a handle that you could not miss back in the day.
Right.
And
And
you're
I wouldn't let
also,
you.
I know you're at Blue Sky. What's
Yes.
your
Same
handle
thing
there?
there. Blue Sky. I'm still working on there, at .bluesky.social, whatever. But
bsky.social or whatever it is.
the standard
The
thing that
sky,
everybody
the
gets.
scheme,
Yeah.
The scheme
But
social.
Kagro, Kagro, and then the little X on the end. And it doesn't mean anything in particular, but I could explain it to you one day. But
It's a whole thing with his
you will be
brother. I
sorry.
can tell you it all. I know the story, but you don't need to. What you need to know is nobody's smarter in DC when it comes to these kinds of things.
Oh, yeah, tell everybody
as you've
that.
shown, well, that's true. And as you've shown on this show, funny as hell too, and like your writing can be hilarious. So I would encourage
Thank
you all
you.
to follow this man.
I have a good time with it.
And I think that's it. I'll let you go, David, and I'm just going to sort of do a 1 minute goodbye to the folks here.
You got it.
But thank you so much for joining. And now that I know you're separate from Coast, I'm going to make you have me on your show.
Okay. You're going to regret that.
I shall never regret it.
Thanks very much, Cliff.
Seriously, I'll be in touch in general. It's just good to see you again. Good to talk to you again, buddy.
Been a long time. Thanks.
Yep. Take care.
Okay,
Thank you
take
for
care.
everything.
You got it.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here. Thanks for watching. David is one of the best. Smart guy, great guy, awesome. Tomorrow, I will answer your comments. I apologize in the super chats at the beginning. I don't remember who it was. A friend of mine put it up again tomorrow about Tommy Cutlets, little Giants DeVito action. My kid loves him because we got a little Sicilian in our family. I'll even answer sports questions tomorrow. Just wait till after my initial I'll do my initial rant thing, and then we'll do all question and answer, mostly political, but we're open to anything reasonable. Just what else can I say, guys? Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Talia, for saying he's a great guest. He's one of the best, and there aren't enough good people in this business. So I try to not just have people on who are smart, but people who are really, truly good people, care about others, just treat people with respect. He's a great guy. So, all right, that's it. 2 p.m. tomorrow, same bat place, same bat time, right? And as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell. And that is it.